Hey everyone, this is Dr. Casey Johnson. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to the Unlock Wellness podcast. I know you're going to love today's episode with Karin Gibson. Karin is doing some amazing work, so I'm excited to have her on to share a story with you guys. If you've been loving the Unlock Wellness podcast, be sure to jump onto iTunes, subscribe, and write a review. It really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate all of the feedback and support. Also, be sure to follow me on social media to keep up with the latest podcast episodes. The best way to connect with me is on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. My username across the board is at Dr. Casey Johnson. That's DrKaseyJohnson. You can also check out my website at drkaseyjohnson.com. It has all of the past podcast episodes and more information about each guest under the Listen tab. While you're on my site, be sure to check out the Shop tab where you can check out my first book of my Healthy Children's Book series. Thank you again for listening. I hope this episode leaves you feeling inspired to start making positive changes to your health. Now it's time for today's episode. I hope you love my conversation with Karin Gibson. Welcome to the Unlock Wellness podcast. I'm Dr. Casey and excited for today's guest. I'm here with Karin Gibson. Karin is a registered dietitian in Sweden and now lives in New York City and specializes in plant-based nutrition. Karin is especially interested in whole food plant-based diets for women's health, pregnancy, breastfeeding, as well as young children. So I'm excited for Karin to share her own wellness journey and just all of the incredible work that she's doing. So Karin, thank you so much for taking time to come on. I'm excited to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited too.
Yeah, and before we dive into all of the incredible work that you're doing, let's start with your backstory. So first off, where you're from, and just kind of walk us all through your wellness journey, how you used to feel really led to your plant-based diet, and just kind of walk us through. That way we understand how your health and nutrition has really evolved over time.
Yeah, sure. So as you said, I've grown up in Sweden, and if people are not so aware of how it is to live there, I grew up in the countryside and obviously not on a plant-based diet as a child. We ate a very traditional Swedish diet, and it's pretty heavy in fish and meat and of course dairy, but also in vegetables and things. I think the major difference between the Swedish diet and the American diet is that it's not so heavy on processed foods. I even remember my mom, she insisted on baking her own bread and making her own even sausage and things. And I kind of begged for can we get store-bought bread? Because it's so much, it's quite different. And we even picked up unpasteurized milk from the neighbors because even though my family, we didn't have a farm ourselves. We had horses, but we lived in the countryside. So we had neighbors who had farms. So that's kind of where I grew up. And I think around when I was, a teenager, I would say, I started to question very much how what we eat affect us, and I questioned how we could eat animals. So it kind of started from that ethical perspective for me to question kind of why we ate animal products. And so I turned vegetarian then. I kept on eating fish though. So I was, I guess, pescatarian. But then this interest in nutrition and everything that just grew. So I decided to study dietetics. So I did that at university level. And, I still, at that time, in school, just as well as here, we are taught that, dairy is good for us because it provides calcium, and, meat are good, even if we should choose the lean meat in the first place, it's good for us, good protein and all that. So I felt I was fairly healthy. I had my pescatarian diet, obviously ate way more vegetables than most people in my age at that time, because I was a dietitian after all. I should know what's good and not. And I had I wouldn't say any huge health issues, although I see more and more looking back, comparing to how I feel today, I realized I definitely did have some. And what I felt growing up was definitely quite a lot of digestive issues. I was chronically constipated, even, as a child, but definitely growing up. And I think when you start, after teenager, you start to think about your body image more, and I felt always bloated. I felt like I looked pregnant. And even though I've always been a very skinny girl, I started to think more about what I ate and felt bad if I ate too much, because I just didn't like that I kind of always had like a chubby belly, if you know what I mean. And, for a girl, that's disturbing in that age. And in school, I just learned from the dietetic degree, like I knew that I should eat more fiber and I should drink more water and I should exercise and all the things to not be constipated and maybe, choose lactose-free dairy products. But yeah, that's kind of all I did, and it didn't get better. So I just like accepted, okay, this is how I am. It's probably due to stress or something else. And it wasn't actually first until I moved to New York City 5 years ago when I came across the sort of all this huge evidence-based, nutrition information we have that actually supports a whole food plant-based diet in terms of not only like preventing most of the chronic diseases we have today, but also when it comes to gut health, digestive issues, longevity, and like just that wealth of science information. I was so thrilled when I learned about that, because in school, like we obviously learned, it's better to eat more vegetables and it's better to eat, of course, lean meat again and low-fat dairy. But no one never talked about like that you can use a whole food plant-based diet as even a therapeutic thing. Like you can use it to even, treat and manage like diabetes and heart disease and for sure prevent many types of cancer. And like we never talked about it like, it's a clear diet choose in those situations. So for me, that was like, because I've always been from the scientific side, I've always read studies and things. For me, I kind of needed that, I think, to make the switch to go fully plant-based from being pescatarian.
So even like 5 years ago, like whenever you moved to New York, so did you notice a huge difference in between the US and Sweden? Even then, even now we're just playing catch up with getting all the research out there in the US with a plant-based diet. So you feel like we were even ahead whenever you moved here compared to like your education in Sweden?
Both yes and no. So I graduated 2009. So I obviously worked as a dietitian, like clinically, a few years before we moved over. So, from what I was taught in school, which was, before 2009, I think actually it's pretty similar to what they taught here. But we definitely didn't. I don't think the dietitians here today either taught so much about like the therapeutic effects of the whole food plant.
I think you have to seek it out, right? I feel like you have to seek out the additional education.
Yeah, exactly. And that's very similar. I think in Sweden we're ahead when it comes to talking about the environmental impacts of diets. I think dietitians and even doctors who graduate nowadays, it's a huge sort of emphasis on eating more legumes instead of meat, eating more plants, but it's very much related to environment and to a certain extent health. But I just found the step that no one ever said, like, if you remove it all, what can happen then? Like, it's always just like eat less of it, or choose low fat, or that's the big thing. And I think here, I mean, I can't answer because I haven't gone to the dietetic school here, but from what I understand from sort of plant-based fellow dietitians and doctors here, they kind of also have to kind of seek that evidence-based information once they've graduated. They find it themselves.
I feel like that's similar with most wellness positions, right? Whether you're a medical doctor or like for me, I'm a chiropractor. So going to chiropractic school, we have general nutrition, but obviously was not pushed plant-based at all through that education. But, medical schools, for the most part, you're not going to get a plant-based nutrition education. I know there's a lot of amazing physicians out there that's really trying to change that paradigm, which is incredible. But I feel like you have to seek it out if you're interested in it and you feel like it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's exactly how it is at home too. I mean, we obviously learned that if you, for ethical reasons, wanted to be vegan, I knew that, that was perfectly fine as long as you took your B12. But there was more like, if you wanted to do it for an ethical choice, not like, hey, this diet may actually be very beneficial for this and this and this.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of go back on your story, Karin, because I always think it's interesting when people do make that initial choice for animal reasons and animal efficacy. Like, did you have a resource that really tipped you off on that? Or did you just kind of internally like feel it like was a wrong thing? And I always think it's interesting when it's just an internal thing, because I think innately we all kind of start that way as kids, that's a weird thing to eat an animal. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. No, for sure. I was definitely one of those children who cried in front of the TV when I see animals suffered, or I asked my mom, how could they slaughter the pigs next door? And, because I grew up in the country, I saw everything. Mm-hmm. And I always kept on questioning it, whether I think most kids eventually kind of get, I don't know if I should use the word brainwashed, but, we get culturally.
I think that's appropriate.
It kind of is, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think I didn't accept that. So So yeah, internally I felt like it was very wrong. And I think actually growing up, like I kind of looked at vegans and were, oh my God, they're doing such a good thing. Like they're like so strong and they're like really standing up for animals. And I think I admired them, but I wasn't just ready to go there myself. I think because it's hard in the beginning, especially I didn't have any friends who were vegans. It was kind of, it's a different lifestyle choice, and especially then. And so for me, being in the scientific field, I felt like I think I needed that last final thing with the evidence-based information. And the eye-opening thing here was I went to New York City Veg Fest and I heard both Dr. Michelle McMacken speak.
Oh, very cool. She's amazing.
Oh, she's incredible. She was so inspiring. I even have told her, like, thanks to you, I'm here today. Like,
so cool.
Yeah, she was so inspiring. And also Dr. Michael Greger, Dr. Robert Ostfeld. There's a bunch of them I've heard live, and as soon as you hear one, you're like, oh my God, this is so amazing. Everything they tell me and all the science they show makes total sense to me. So I was drawn to go to different healthcare conferences, and I took the nutrition studies. They have an online course on plant-based nutrition. I took that, and I just dived into everything I could, and I went to all plant-based events on Manhattan, meetup groups. It's so important to also find your community. So for me, like, resources was definitely listening to doctors' different presentation, and you can do them online too if you don't have availability to go to these places. I read a few books, of course, looked at websites, follow them on Instagram. And yeah, once you kind of find one, it's easy to kind of find the next, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great community to be a part of. And, shout out to, Karin versus Kelly. She connected us, and she's incredible as well. I'm sure she's been a great resource for you as well. And her mac and cheese recipe with the cashew cheese just blows my mind. So shout out to that. Go follow her and get that recipe because it's amazing.
Yes, for sure. No, she's an awesome resource, especially when it comes to the practical aspects of it. I think we can read so much information online and things, but then we're standing there like, how do we actually do this? And I think she provides so much valuable information. Yeah, Karin's Healing Kitchen, right?
Yes. You can follow her on Instagram at Karin's Healing Kitchen. And I think that's amazing though, Karin, just how you really just gradually learned and processed and went to all of the events and went to the talks. And I feel like if you really dive in like that, you're going to meet such an incredible community. You're going to learn so much and be able to really reinforce it, because we both know that when you do make that lifestyle change, like you were talking about, it can be hard if you don't have the family members that support it or the friends that support it. So to really get that sense of community and be with like-minded people and just really grow your knowledge in it and reinforce, this is why I'm doing it. And it's scientifically, it's backed up. I mean, it changes the whole game.
Yeah, absolutely. And also another aspect is, as soon as you go plant-based, whether or not I think you go 100% or 90%, but I mean, if you do absolutely, a major shift in your diet, you very soon get to feel all the health benefits. And that's kind of has a snowball effect. And you just want to, it becomes very, very easy very soon, because you get so motivated of everything you see happening in me or in us. But for me, I didn't expect that much of a change in my body because, like I said, I thought I was eating perfectly healthy. I was a pescatarian. I hadn't eaten meat for like almost 20 years, but I still felt, obviously, like, going back to like my sort of wellness journey, like all the bloating I had was completely gone. I felt like, slimmer than ever, even if I didn't lose any weight. It was just it was a different look. Obviously, have never been constipated since. I had gastritis too, that, and that came and go when I was younger, and never have that anymore. I just never even think about food or my body negatively anymore, because I can just eat whatever I want and I just feel great. And that's such a relief, I think. It's such a relief. And I think also it's on a spiritual level too.
It definitely is.
Live in line with your values. Like I said, I almost admire vegans or people who didn't eat any animal products before, but I had never the courage to take that step myself. But once you do it and you know why you're doing it, you feel so like, oh my God, I'm doing exactly what I want to do. Because I've always cared a lot about my health. I've obviously always cared a lot about the environment, and knowing that this plant-based diet is outstandingly the best diet for the environment too. And of course, for the animals, everything just like together made it feel very, very fulfilling. And I think you get it, but it's maybe hard for listeners to understand sometimes what I mean on a spiritual level, but it just is very, very fulfilling and satisfying.
Absolutely. No, you said that perfectly, and I couldn't agree more. It's incredibly fulfilling when you're just living in alignment in all aspects of your life, because it really does. It affects all aspects. Like you said, it's affecting the environment. It's creating more compassion towards not only animals but people. It creates compassion all around. Obviously, you're having the positive health benefits as well. So it covers all of those bases. And yeah, so it really, it reinforces it so much. And, if you're listening and you're on the fence, once you dive in for whatever reason may be drawing you towards that way, if you're even considering it, I think you'll be super surprised how it affects literally every aspect of your life. And you worded that perfectly, Karin. And it's incredible that you made so many health changes for yourself. And like you said, you weren't even expecting to have that much of a change, but it did. And obviously it kind of kept going as you made that decision before your first pregnancy, or was it afterwards that you went full vegan? What was the timeline there?
Yeah, before. So
okay.
I turned plant-based before.
Got it. So how was the pregnancy? I know you don't really have a comparison of non-vegan versus vegan pregnancy, but for you, just kind of going through pregnancy, how do you feel like it affected you through those 9 months?
I had a wonderful pregnancy. Honestly, I loved being pregnant. I had very, very little nauseous in the beginning, barely I was almost like, am I not pregnant? Because am I not supposed to be nauseous now? I was very, very lucky, and no digestive issues, nothing at all during my whole pregnancy. And I exercised through the whole pregnancy. I felt like I ate like anything I wanted, and I didn't, I gained appropriate weight, but not any excess weight. No pregnancy complications at all. I just really loved being pregnant, and I felt very fortunate because I know that's not the case for everyone. And I know it's not all also due to diet. Like, I think the diet has a huge impact, definitely. Mm-hmm. And you feel more mobile and more energized, and obviously the digestion and heartburn, and you obviously lower your risk of pregnancy complications such as, just gestational diabetes and preeclampsia and those things too. But yeah, so diet definitely can affect and has a huge impact during pregnancy. But I also know some women are like so just hormonally affected. So even if you're plant-based, they're still super nauseous in the beginning. So, I can't do everything. But for me, I just love being pregnant. And I'm actually pregnant again. And
I am so excited for you. Like, that is amazing. And that's incredible. And I love how you've taken your passion of what you've learned, and you've obviously applied it to yourself and have lived that lifestyle. You used it through your pregnancy, and now you have a 1-year-old daughter, and you are, raising her plant-based. I love it because I'm raising my daughter plant-based as well. And you really use that in your practice and how you educate people, and just trying to educate moms and families and just trying to get the kids on board. So do you want to talk for a minute about that and just how it's going, the changes that you're making, and just kind of walk everybody through that?
Yeah, of course. So, even during my pregnancy, I got questions from others, of course, like, oh man, don't you need meat? And do you really get enough iron and protein? And we all get questioned that. And luckily, with my dietetic degree, and as much as I've read about this, I always felt very, very confident and knew what I should answer. And I was fully sure about that I was doing the right thing. But I can just imagine, like, someone who doesn't have a nutrition degree and who doesn't read studies and are not even interested in food and nutrition. And if they still want to live a plant-based lifestyle, I definitely understand that they can be very worried or, start to question themselves. I see many vegans who have been, long-term vegans, have been vegans for like 20 years, and then suddenly they get pregnant or they have their first child, and then they're like, oh my God, can I stay this lifestyle? Or how will this affect my child? Or I think as moms, or as parents, I should say, we suddenly always question everything we do and want to make sure.
It's easy to have that fear factor, you know, especially with physicians with different opinions, and then social media totally.
Yeah.
But it's understandable, right? Like why people would be confused and scared if they're not like as into nutrition as you and I both are.
Yeah, of course. And I feel so much for these parents, and I feel like I really want to be there to help them to build that confidence and make sure that they feel like, that their lifestyle choice is a really, really good choice, and that they have the resources, the knowledge, the education they need to like sort of bring up this child, healthy and well-nourished, and also feel in front of others to be like, okay, we're doing the right thing, and not sort of question themselves. So I feel like it's a really, I love my job in that way, because I really get to help all these parents and of course children too. Although most of the babies and toddlers I see, I mainly have the contact with the parents, of course. So that's really what I do. I help these parents in like navigating how both to practically do it, because when you start solids, and in most of the kids book you read, it says like you got to start with iron-rich food, you need to start with meat or start with eggs, and they're like, oh my god, it's everywhere. Yeah, there might be questions from their pediatricians or so. Yeah, I love being able to help them, to support them, like how to really raise their children plant-based and make sure that everything is going the way they want, and they provide all the nutrients the baby needs, and because it's perfectly safe, it's perfectly possible, and it's not even hard, but it requires probably a little bit of knowledge, just where to find all the different nutrients and and how to do it. But once you know that, then it's just like everything else in life, then that's the way you live, and that's the easier way.
I love it. And let's kind of start with some practical things for parents. So if somebody's listening and they have a baby that hasn't started eating solid food yet, and maybe this is all new to them, and they're like, I didn't even know this was an option. All they're seeing is like baby-led weaning and like little babies like eating pieces of chicken. You know what I mean? Like all of that. Like what if they are getting ready to start feeding their child? What do you recommend? Like if they are looking to go more plant-based, maybe some of the foods that they should start with, like, is there anything that they should avoid? Do you recommend, just through your education, do you recommend pureed versus not pureed? Like what are some of the basic things you might tell a mom who has a baby that hasn't started eating solid food yet?
Yeah, that's a good question. So of course, I'm supporting parents in whatever choice they, if they want to go for the more traditional spoon feeding approach, or if they want to go for baby-led weaning. I often encourage them to at least do a little bit of baby-led weaning or a little bit of finger foods. So they involve that part in their child too, even if they maybe want to spoon feed them most of the time, because I really think there are many benefits in that. So when it comes to food choices, I think the first few weeks or first few days, at least when you start solids, most parents tend to, start with some soft boiled veggies or avocado or some fruit and, some gentle things like that. But pretty soon on, you need to start including iron-rich foods, because, as long as the baby's breastfed, they get all the nutrients they need from the mother. But somewhere around 6 months old or 6 months age, so the same time as when we kind of had the guidelines that's around that time is good to start solids. And one of the reasons for that is because the breast milk starts to be the iron content decreases in breast milk. So that's why we kind of need to focus on those foods. And like I said, we often associate that with meat. So that's where I feel like teach them, what can you choose instead. And there we of course have really, really wonderful plant sources of iron that are, for instance, legumes. So you can serve your child well-cooked beans or lentils, chickpeas, hummus, tofu, even tempeh, those things. And depending on if you do the baby-led weaning approach or the spoon feeding, if you do the spoon feeding, you can just mash them and feed them with the spoon. But it's harder on the baby-led weaning approach. So you might have to incorporate legumes in, making small bean patties, or maybe you make chickpea pancakes or bean burgers, and you kind of make it easier for the baby to eat with hand. And I really think it's a good thing to try to do finger foods with children, especially children who are willing to do it. Not all children are. Some children are just like, they're not interested, and it comes later on. But some already by from 6 months old, they want to be in charge themselves. I think it's also about listening to the child. But I usually recommend kind of focusing on iron-rich food. And of course, fruit and vegetables are good to really incorporate early in life, because we know that taste preferences are sort of established already the first year in life. So the more, especially vegetables which have a bit more bitter taste, like broccoli and even the leafy greens, they're really, really good to expose children for as much fruit and vegetables, legumes, like all these healthy foods during the first year in life. Because if they accept them then, they're more likely to accept them later on in life. So it's so
absolutely,
yeah, that's partly why it's so good to raise them plant-based in a way, because they get all this abundance of plant foods very early on.
It really does affect the palate. I've seen that firsthand with our daughter. Like she really won't eat any. If anything is like, even if it's like a vegan, like if it's like a sweeter vegan treat or cookie or cake or like chocolate, she won't eat it. She'll take a bite of it and be like, no, I don't like this. It's too sweet. Like it's like, I've noticed that already, and she's 3, that just how her palate is. It's really cool to see how it impacts it so quickly.
That's amazing. That's really, really amazing. Because, I mean, honestly, most parents struggle with the opposite, that, the kids definitely have a preference for sweets. And if you haven't got all these veggies and the more bitter flavors more neutral flavors of food, and actually it doesn't need to be neutral, but like lots of different spices from all around the world too, but all these like more savory foods in the first year in life, or even definitely the second year in life, like it is hard, because then the taste preferences are built, and more or less all children go through a picky phase around. Mm-hmm. It starts around 18 months, 2 years old, and it's much, much harder after that. And I mean, you have obviously succeeded very well with what you've introduced to your child, because she's 3 now, which is like peak of picky.
No, and for you guys listening, like it's not always perfect. She doesn't want sweet food. She actually is in a picky phase right now. But even in that picky phase, like she might prefer, like I have to like work harder a little bit in incorporating more smoothies, making sure she's getting that. Like she would rather sit down and like snack on hummus and like crackers that are like almond flour crackers and like things like that. So she's in like she wants to snack all the time phase. So I have to be a little bit more creative on how she gets the rest of her nutrients sometimes. But the palate is still like that. Like she doesn't want this sweet stuff. She doesn't really necessarily want bad stuff. She definitely is extra picky right now. So if you're listening and you're like, my kid's too picky to do this, like don't get discouraged. Even though she's eaten like this her entire life, she's picky right now. And sometimes it's really hard, but it's definitely doable still. And it's definitely doable. So don't get discouraged.
No, I understand what you're saying. And I think it's important. Like there is no perfect babies. I also get, because I put a lot of videos up when my baby's eating on Instagram, and sometimes I get questions like, oh my God, your baby's eating all these legumes and these veggies. Oh my God, she's a perfect eater. And all I respond is like, no, she's not perfect. She's just like, she definitely eats those foods because she's grown up on them, and that's her basic diet. But she also have days when she throws the food on the floor, refuses. They all have that, whatever diet you choose. But of course, as a parent, you have an opportunity to sort of select all the best foods, the healthiest food, as much as you can when they are young, and then it's going to be easier. Like,
absolutely,
you're not going to not have a picky child at any point. Like, I think we all have, but I think we can approach this differently and sort of make it as smooth and easy as possible.
100%. And I know you mentioned, increasing the iron-rich foods. I'm pretty sure probably common questions that you get from parents are like, what about iron? What about calcium? Like, isn't it going to affect their growth and weight gain and all of these things? So what do you say whenever you get those questions?
Yeah, so no, exactly. I do get them often, so that's good. So when it comes to iron, there's actually no studies showing that plant-based children have more prevalence of iron deficiency. It shows that they may have lower iron stores, but they are not deficient. And there's actually nothing that says that having high stores are better. So as long as you're not deficient and you have the stores you need, that's just good. So there isn't actually an increased prevalence of iron deficiency. But all parents, regardless if they eat meat or not, need to be aware of where to find iron. And so, it's definitely important to incorporate those legumes. And actually, as you mentioned, whole grains too. Also, the dark green veggies are good to incorporate. And I also tell parents that a very easy trick they can do to make sure that the baby is like maximizing their iron intake, iron absorption, is to always pair the food with something vitamin C rich. So, for instance, if you serve like a lentil stew with pasta, or if you serve, bean burgers or something, whatever, and that is an iron-rich food, if you at the same time serve something like piece of tomato or bell pepper, cauliflower, broccoli, maybe kiwi fruit, citrus fruit, strawberries, berries, anything which has vitamin C. Studies shows that the iron absorption can actually increase up to 5 times and be, more equal with what the iron absorption would be in meat. So that's an easy trick. And to be honest, when you raise a plant-based child or you have the plant-based lifestyle, most often all meals have, 1 or maybe even 2 vitamin C rich sources. There aren't so often I have to consciously think about adding it because it's already in the meal. But sometimes if I go to the park and I pack a regular bread, a toasted bread with some peanut butter on top, if I just give her that, it's better to give her that and a couple of strawberries or, half a clementine or something. So, once you get into that, you can also make sure, then you have really, maximized capacity for iron absorption. And talking about calcium, we have national guidelines that say we shouldn't give children under 1 year of age any cow's milk to drink. And one of the reasons why we tell parents to wait with cow's milk is because cow's milk, the calcium in cow's milk competes with the iron uptake. And because iron deficiency is the most common micronutrient deficiency in children, and it is, it's a little bit hard in the first year to make sure you get enough. It's more than doable and more than possible, but you need, like I said, you need to think about it. And by then just delaying the introduction of cow's milk as something they drink to every meal, or how kids today, they drink cow's milk all the time once they start. We want to delay that because otherwise that can compete with iron uptake. And so studies actually shows that babies are introduced to cow's milk early on, they have a much higher risk of iron deficiency. So that's one of the reasons we should wait at least until 1 year old age until they have cow's milk. And that actually applies to plant milks too, because they're calcium fortified. And it's also because kids tend to sometimes want to drink their calories instead. And if they get that to drink, they might just drink themselves full and skip to eat, or at least eat less. So.
Absolutely. And not to mention, the research, and I feel like there's more and more research coming out all of the time, but the effect that calcium actually, we always, growing up, right, we heard the dairy commercials and have strong bones, but the research that's coming out that's showing that calcium from, dairy actually leaches calcium from our body. It can actually have the opposite effect and cause a lot of issues to bone health, right? So it's actually opposite from what we've initially been taught, especially growing up.
Yeah, exactly. The science is not showing us that the more cow's milk you drink, the stronger bones you have. Exactly. It's not at all. And there's so many other food sources that you can get calcium from, which are much healthier for you. And another thing is to think about the vitamin D too, because if you don't have enough vitamin D, you can't even sort of utilize the calcium you're getting. I'm thinking about this specifically because I'm Swedish, and in Sweden and Finland are 2 countries in the world which drink the most cow's milk in the world. We have a high dairy intake, and we have also the highest rate of osteoporosis. And it definitely doesn't protect us from osteoporosis, but it's also due to that we don't have enough of sunshine. We don't have enough of vitamin D, and people don't, on a general, talking generally, they don't supplement with vitamin D. We do have guidelines now that kids should do it, just as we have here. But it just shows that simply drinking cow's milk doesn't protect you from osteoporosis. It's good to have a good calcium intake, but that can just as well be from plants. But it's also important to get the vitamin D, because those calcium and vitamin D help each other to build strong bones. And I'm talking to plant-based parents. I definitely ensure them that there's no need for cow's milk. The children can grow healthy bones and strong bones without any dairy at all. And they can find, so after 1 year of age, you can definitely introduce plant milks, and you should actually choose the ones which are calcium fortified. Just thinking about not letting them drink, liters and liters of it, because they still need to eat their food, but you can offer them a cup to their snack times. And besides offering them calcium-rich plant milks, also offering them calcium-rich foods, which you find in soy foods, for instance, like tofu and tempeh, edamame beans, but also things like sesame seeds, tahini, the leafy dark greens, also broccoli, Brussels sprouts, also oranges, almonds, certain nuts, seeds. It's actually quite, there are a lot of plant foods which are rich in calcium. So as long as you eat the whole food plant-based diet and vary it a lot, and it is easy to have the plant milks there, because they're very available for children. It's easy to get enough calcium in the diet. I think it's more if you rely too much on processed food. If you're what, I don't like the word, but like kind of a junk food vegan.
Right.
Like, as long as you rely on whole foods, like most whole foods, in a varied whole food plant-based diet, you can definitely get enough calcium.
Absolutely. And then what do you tell parents when they have questions with the protein? I mean, I think every other commercial here is like, kids drinking these like protein shakes because these moms are worried that their kids are falling behind on the growth curve, right? So there's a lot of fear being pushed out there when it comes to protein. So like, what do you tell them? And then what are some of the foods you recommend to make sure that's not an issue at all?
Yeah. So the first thing I say is that statistically, generally speaking, like kids in America, or it might even actually be kids in Europe too, but like kids on kind of classical Western diets, they get 2 to 3 times more protein than they need.
Yeah.
So like just as well as adults are obsessed with protein, we are obsessed with giving our kids protein. They don't need as much as we think, although they definitely need some for sure. So, but it's pretty easy actually, because once you teach parents that they should think about the iron-rich foods, they're the same food. So you find the protein in all legumes and whole grains, but also in nuts and seeds, which is quite a big important part in the plant-based diet, especially for kids, because that's where you find all the healthy fats too. But yeah, so even pasta and, rice, quinoa, oats, those kind of typical like pancakes which kids tend to like. And of course, all the legumes is the like major protein contributor in the plant-based diet. So yeah, it's important to get those, have that in the diet for the children. I usually say, try to at least have it for lunch and dinner. So like almost as you would plan any diet, like you would have, someone else would have meat or fish, for instance, but a healthy alternative is obviously going for plant protein, and that would be legumes in the first place. But yeah, nuts and seeds are great too, whole grains. So it's really, I'm not worried at all, as long as you are growing. And unless you have children who doesn't grow as it should, or, you obviously need to see if there's any underlying factors first. But it's extremely, extremely rarely that a child who meet their calorie needs are protein deficient. As long as they meet their calorie needs, they are almost guaranteed getting their protein intake.
Absolutely. And like you said, it's once you start to incorporate these whole food, plant-based foods, like you said, like eating legumes, eating beans, throwing in some spinach or whatever it may be, you're covering the iron, you're covering the protein, you're covering the calcium, and your body can absorb that like it's meant to. And if you're meeting your calorie needs, good to go. So it kind of brings me to my question, Karin, of something that I get asked a lot too. And I think people, like parents, would have a lot of questions about is, what about supplementations for kids? Is it necessary? And if you believe that it is necessary, maybe what age, which ones you recommend? You recommend liquid over capsule? Obviously, liquid's a lot easier for certain ages of kids. But what is your whole take on supplements, and what would be really helpful for them to hear right now?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you're bringing this up actually, because even though I'm obviously a huge proponent and advocate for plant-based diets, and I think they're an excellent way to bring up children, I am also a nutrition nerd. And that this is my specialty. So I also feel the responsibility to really inform parents that they do it the right way. Because obviously there are a few generally speaking, a plant-based diet is very, very nutrient dense, and most plant-based kids get, much more nutrients and phytochemicals, antioxidants, and so than kids growing up on a standard American diet. However, there are a few nutrients that are a bit low in the plant-based diet, and we just need to make sure that we know what those nutrients are and how we can fill those gaps. So the first one would be B12, and that's the one we always bring up when we talk to adults too. So,
right.
Yeah, B12 is like non-negotiable. I think all children should have a supplement with that.
I think, sorry to cut you off, but I mean, whether they are plant-based or not, I mean, to be honest, I think, like you said, I think everybody should, because I mean, we're dealing with soil depletion, where our food doesn't have as much nutrients as it used to. And I think it'd be beneficial for kids, whether you are a parent, your kid is plant-based or not. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't have, in most cases, yes. I don't have any statistics on B12 status in children, but you're right. When it comes to adults, I know many of the doctors I work with, they tell me all the time, like, oh my God, so many patients who eat just a regular standard diet, American diet, with lots of meat in it, they are B12 deficient. So I would just assume that probably is the case for children too, although I don't have any data of that. What we do know, though, is that it is, it is crucial for children to have sufficient amount of B12 as they grow up. So yeah, I always recommend a supplement there. Like, there is some B12 in certain foods and some enriched foods, fortified foods. I just think there's no reason to sort of risk it, or I just, it is in fortified food and that,
right.
But why not take a supplement to be on the safe side? Because B vitamins are water soluble, so whatever excess the child gets, you don't need to worry, because it will just be excreted in the urine. So, and when the time to start B12 would be once the child is kind of eating more solids than taking breast milk. So usually that is sometime, maybe 9 to 12 month old, or just after 12 month old. I usually say around 1 year if they haven't started before. And that applies to formula too, of course. If you are a formula fed baby, the formula will provide B12. But as soon as you decrease the amount of formula, you naturally will obviously decrease the amount of B12. So to make sure that you have enough around 1 year of age, I think you should start supplementing your child with B12.
Do you think it makes a difference whether it is just a separate B12 supplement, or if a parent chooses to use a multivitamin that has a B12? Have you read any research that it makes a difference on absorption rate?
No, an absorption rate, I think it's the same from those types of supplements. I think what we do know, though, is that you need a quite high dose, because the body's ability to absorb B12, the body can only absorb a very little amount each time. So in an ideal scenario, you would supplement like a little bit of B12 in the morning and a little bit at lunch and a little bit in the evening. But, we're all busy parents. It's hard to kind of like practically do that. So we tend to want to have a supplement with a little bit higher dose instead, because if you have a quite high dose, the body sort of absorbs the B12, not just through passive. It's hard to explain, but like basically you need a quite high dose for the body to take up even a little bit of B12. And so to your question about the difference between a multivitamin and a separate one would be that for a child who gets B12 from many different sources, maybe a multivitamin, would be enough, because you don't specifically take it for the vitamin B12. For fully plant-based children who would definitely want to make sure they get enough B12, I'd say most multivitamins for children have a quite low dose of vitamin B12. And I wouldn't be confident and say that that's usually enough. I think, for instance, a child between 1 and 2 years old should have around 10 to 40 micrograms per day. And most multivitamins maybe even have just, 1 or 2 micrograms or 3.
Okay. You said 10 to 40?
Yeah, 10 to 40.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
that's why I most often just recommend having a separate B12 supplement. But to your question, I don't think it's the absorption rate is probably the same, but I just don't think the multivitamin often provide the strength or the amount you need for a fully plant-based child.
Got it. No, that's super helpful. I think that's a big question that a lot of parents have. So I think that's something to really, take to heart if you're a parent listening and you're trying to figure out which ones to do. And obviously you would recommend a liquid form of that?
Yeah, either drops or spray form is obviously easiest for children.
Okay.
The hard thing though, which is really annoying, I think, is that in America, I cannot find any B12, and I don't know any dietitians around me, which I sort of, have contact with. They haven't found any either. Any B12 supplements with so low dosages that children actually need. So when I say 10 to 40 microgram, if anyone listens to this now and they go on Amazon and Google for a supplement, they're going to be super stressed because they're not going to find any. Like the lowest one I can find in the US is literally 500 micrograms. And obviously like, oh my God, can I give so much? It's like, I think that's a bit too much to give to a child. Like it's even above, like there aren't actually set any toxic, like upper limits set for B12, but yeah, it's definitely high. So in that case, because we obviously need to find a practical solution for this, I say buy the spray, which has 500 micrograms in it, and just spray like half of the spray. So like, cover half with make it so that half of the spray comes on the baby's plate. And that means that the baby gets 250 micrograms. And if you do that twice a week, that should be sufficient and enough for the baby. So twice a week, 250 micrograms each. That would be applicable for people in America who can't get hold of lower dose supplements. I know I travel a lot to Europe because I'm from there. Like you can find supplements with even 3 micrograms in, or 10 or 15 or.
That's cool. Yeah, if you're listening and you know a brand that has lower dosages of B12, shoot us both a message, and that would be super helpful.
Yes, please do so. And I've actually reached out to the companies in Europe and like, hey, why don't you start selling them on Amazon or in the US? But yeah, not yet.
As far as like, because obviously you don't want to give iron supplements too early, right? There's a certain age limit on that, or are there any other supplements that you recommend for kids to take?
Yes, there is. So I know that the American Academy of Pediatrics can be quite quick on suggesting parents to supplement with iron. I think they're probably a bit unnecessary. Like, yeah, they recommend it unnecessarily early, but it obviously depends on child to child basis. But somewhere around 6 months of age, the baby should start getting solid foods and start choosing iron-rich foods. And if it's doable, definitely with food. I think a lot of pediatricians are worried if the child is like 9-10 months old and still eat some children still eat very, very little solid foods and mainly rely on breast milk. And then I know most pediatricians recommend a supplement. And it is in some cases probably a good idea to supplement with iron. But I think a more gentle form would be to try to have the child taking a iron-fortified baby cereal. Because at least that's food and it usually doesn't create the same constipation in children. So most often I say to parents, especially if they have a child who doesn't eat very high amount of solids, because, it's all different when, how much they eat the first 6 months when they start. So I usually recommend a iron fortified baby cereal because they provide around like 45 to 50% even of the daily iron need in children between 6 months and 12 months old. So it's a very, very easy way for parents to make sure that, they've already got 50% of their iron intake via one portion of baby cereal. And then the rest they probably get from food. So I think that's a really good sort of backup. I felt very safe when I gave that to my daughter because it puts less stress on me as a parent to combine every single meal perfectly iron rich, if you know what I mean.
Right.
And if anyone listens to this worried about, they've heard that baby cereals have arsenic or they're dangerous and not good for babies, I just say always choose an organic one and choose ideally one based on oats or multigrain. Stay away from the 100% rice-based ones because those are the ones we have found higher arsenic levels in. And it's just rice naturally have arsenic in them. So, and then I think in the older, I don't know how many years ago, but way back, I think parents were actually told to start babies on a rice-based infant cereal. But today that has changed. So cereals are not bad for babies. They're still good and there can be a good iron source, but just choose a oat or multigrain instead. And then most often that together with solid foods should provide the baby with enough of iron. And then a 12-month checkup, or you can even request a 9-month if you're a parent and want to know the iron status. But usually around 12 months, they do check the status and you get, the pediatrician will tell you how it looks. And in most cases, it looks good. If it doesn't, then potentially supplement is needed.
Got it. A question that I get frequently, Karin, is for a mom that wants to raise their baby plant-based, and they obviously don't want to use a dairy-based formula, but they have concerns with the brands that are out there because there's some very bad, like, listen, if you're using GMO soy formula, like that can be very toxic. So is there any recommendations as far as formula goes that you'd recommend that you feel safe about, that's dairy-free and not GMO soy?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I almost ask myself that question because it's so hard. Like, I'm obviously a huge proponent for or advocate for breastfeeding. And I think, it's hard for parents, hard for moms. It can be hard for moms to breastfeed, but I think most moms can if they get enough support and, really, really try to work on that first. But, in some cases, it definitely doesn't work and a formula is needed. And we should know that, formula-fed babies, they grow up healthy too. So it's definitely, I don't want to make any parent or any moms bad because they use formula. And we should just be happy that we have formulas available today. But I think another option before even looking into formulas would maybe be to look for donated breast milk. That is a more natural replacement for your own breast milk. At least it's someone else's breast milk. I know there are some websites you can look for, like where they are, when other mothers donate breast milk and it's tested and it's safe and all of that. But yeah, to your questions of formula, it is hard. I feel like the soy-based ones are great in the way that they don't include dairy because dairy is in a lot of cases it upsets young babies' stomachs. With some have milk protein allergies and others have just digestive issues of cow's milk. But the soy ones, the ones I found, they usually they're corn based, or they have higher sugar content instead. And that doesn't feel great either. So I'm very drawn in this question, to be honest. Like, in one way, like, a cow's milk based formula is it's based on lactose, which is the milk sugar, and breast milk is mainly made of the sugar in breast milk is lactose. So in one way, looking at the sugar content, a cow's milk based formula would be more similar to breast milk than a soy based formula, because it's usually like corn syrup or something. So it's hard. I haven't found any formula I have felt super comfortable with. Like, it almost feels like you have to choose either one based on soy, which has a higher sugar content, and maybe doesn't feel great in that way, or otherwise you have to go for a dairy one. And if you don't want to have dairy,
it's hard.
It's hard. It's really hard. I know there are some German-based brands which are organic, non-GMO, and they don't have so many sort of additional ingredients, which I think are pretty good. But they do include dairy. So if you are fully plant-based, they might not be an option. So I think it's really a question for, I think that's up to the parent, like what they feel most comfortable, because neither of those two choices are like 100% ideal, I think, to be honest.
Right. And then once you do make that decision based on your own research and opinions, like, just continue to do the best you can. Obviously, not everybody can breastfeed. And like, if, there's things you can do to help try to increase milk production, or, whatever the case may be. But if you're not able to, like, don't be super hard on yourself. Like, do what you can. And then once your baby, or, once they're able to eat solid foods, then do as best you can. And I think that's kind of the best option right now. It's unfortunately, and I think it's but it's getting there. But I think that's the best way to handle it.
Yeah, no, I think you summarized it very well. And I just wish I could give you a super good answer, but we should just be happy that there is at least an alternative, and it's as close to breast milk it can be. And we know that I think even 25% of American children grow up on them, and they turn out pretty good, those two. So
right,
we should at least be happy that when it doesn't work, we have a solution.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. So Karin, I know we covered B12, and what else do you think are maybe crucial supplements that parents should be looking for whenever they are looking for supplements for their kids?
Yeah. So another supplement is vitamin D. And as we mentioned, it's very important for bone health. And the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends all breastfed babies to get a vitamin D supplement straight from birth. So that should be taken straight from birth alongside the breast milk. It's not needed if they're formula fed, because then they get it through the formula. But otherwise from birth, and that should be continued taking at least up to 2 years age, probably even longer, depending on how much the baby or the toddler is out in the sunshine, and how much they get through how much vitamin D they get through fortified plant milks, etc. But definitely continue with that once you introduce solids. So don't stop with the vitamin D drops just because you start solids. It's very important to continue with that. So that's the other one. I also think there's 2 more supplements I recommend for fully plant-based babies, and it's iodine and omega-3. And iodine is something I think it's not so much talked about here, but I feel sometimes it's kind of in the shadows, or like we kind of forget about it. But it's very important for brain health, and especially the first few years in life. And for adults, plant-based adults, we can get iodine, for instance, from sea vegetables like seaweeds, and we can also get it from fortified salt. Like, most table salts are iodized. But since babies are recommended to have no salt at all the first year in life, and even if they turn 1, they shouldn't suddenly have plenty of salt in their food. So I think it's a better and safer option to actually go for supplements the first couple of years in life. And also because even if seaweed is really healthy and it's a good addition in a plant-based diet, seaweeds are very hard to know the iodine content. Very, very few brands specify on the product how much iodine they actually contain. And the range is like ridiculous. Like, it could be pretty low, but it could also have like thousands and thousands times more than the baby actually needs. So it's super sort of unreliable to use that as the source of iodine. It's not even recommended. So if you have a fully plant-based child, I would say also supplement with iodine the first few years. And it's very easy. You can buy drops, and usually it's just 1 or 2 drops a day. So it's very, very easy. And the reason is because iodine, just as well as it comes from sea vegetables, it's also found in fish and seafood mostly. So if you don't eat fish and seafood, that's a good thing. And the last supplement for fully plant-based babies would be omega-3. And here it's a little bit, most guidelines says it would be beneficial and it's good. The European guidelines says they should have it. And, I have one foot in the US and one foot in Europe. And so I actually think, why not supplement, or when we know that there are benefits with it, at least again for the first few years, because again, omega-3 is very important for neurodevelopment, brain health. Yeah, so I think that's good. And it's when I say omega-3, I'm talking about the long chain omega-3 fatty acids called EPA and DHA, and especially DHA. It's the same fatty acids as all pregnant women are recommended to take supplements with. So most women, most parents get this because they're like, oh, I've taken that through all my pregnancy, and I've still taken it while I breastfeed. So it's naturally to kind of continue giving the child that. And you can also find them in drop forms. So you just also give them a couple of drops a day.
Gotcha. And I think when people think of omega-3s, they initially think fish oil, but it's not technically the same, right? So there's ways to find that is vegan. And do you want to explain that?
Yeah, good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, so the ones I recommend for plant-based families, and which I think are the best ones for omega-3, are algae-based. And they have shown to be less contaminated with toxic pollutants and things that we can find in oily fish, which some fish supplements could potentially have in them. So yes, algae-based DHA supplements are great for plant-based kids.
Amazing. And are there certain brands? Because I think if there are parents listening, they're like, all of this sounds really awesome, but I don't know. There's so many brands out there. It's not like you could go to your local Walmart and probably buy the lowest quality supplement that doesn't work. So I know it's always really important for me to recommend supplements that I actually believe in, and the research is there to prove that they're actually getting what you pay for. So your kids are absorbing the nutrients that they need. So and we're not here to sell supplements. They're not, we're not selling supplements at all. So, but are there certain brands that you have found that are effective and that you trust for your baby? And that way we can give them an idea of what to look for.
Yeah. No, that's, I am happy to share that. When it comes to omega-3, the DHA, for children, the only algae-based one I know, which comes in with a Doppler, so it's easy to sort of measure, it's coming from Nordic Naturals. So you could just Google Nordic Naturals omega-3 sort of algae-based baby or toddler.
Okay.
So that one is really good. You could give them an adult one. You just need to read on the label how much. I mean, I've even run out of it sometimes, and I've given her my capsules. But obviously, you can't give a child a capsule. So you have to cut a hole in it. And if it says it provides, I don't know how many 100 milligrams of omega-3, I might just have to squeeze out half. And you can just imagine it's smelly and it's sticky, and it's just very inconvenient. It's just
right.
So that's why I like Nordic Naturals, because they have a Doppler and it's really made for children. And the dosage, children, if we now talk about around 1 year age and up, because that's when you should start, both with actually iodine and omega-3, that around 1 year age is good to start. Because up until then they'll get enough from breast milk or formula. But around, if we're talking about the 1 year old, the recommendation says around 10 to 12 micrograms per kilo body weight of the child. So let's say you have a child who weighs 10 kilograms. You take the 10 times 10 to 12, which is 100 to 120. So 100 to 120 milligrams of DHA per day is a good guideline to have when it comes to omega-3. Yeah. And when it comes to iodine, they should have, again, if we're talking about, I think it's from 1 to 3 years old or something, they should have 90 micrograms per day. And there are, I don't remember what that brand is called, but there are also drops. I think there are actually quite a few iodine brands. I'm not so, parent can probably just Google and find one. They usually come in drops, which has either 50 micrograms or 100, and, they should have 90. So I guess 100 is closest you can come. When it comes to B12, I don't have any. There are many brands. I think they're probably equally good. Just make sure you don't find one. I mean, be happy if you found one for 500, because that's the don't go for the 2,500. And the same with vitamin D. I think there are many brands. If you want to make sure that it's 100% plant-based, you should choose one which is made from lichen. It's called lichen because most of the regular vitamin D supplements are derived from sheep's wool. And ideally we want,
that's interesting.
Yeah, ideally we want to have a vitamin D3. So it should say D3. So D3 from lichen. And that's also, if you Google that, there will be a couple of brands coming up. So it shouldn't be too hard to find. And then, not all parents care. Some parents, it doesn't matter if they come from sheep's wool, but that it can be good to know that that's the sort of most common source for it. So if you really want to be plant-based, go for the lichen one.
Perfect. No, that is very good to know, because I think most people aren't aware of that at all. And there's a lot of supplements where they can come from sketchy things. So it's good to know exactly what the source is. So I definitely appreciate that information. And and if you guys do have like supplement questions, I'm sure Karin would love for you to shoot her a message and just ask if you have a question about a brand, because it is super interesting, and you want to make sure that you're, we don't want you to like waste your money on a supplement that maybe isn't effective. So just make sure you just dive into the research and, see where it's from, make sure it's plant-based, and just look at the source. And and as far as just like, Karin, tips for parents that have children who are eating, they're maybe in the toddler age, and they're eating just exclusively, solid food. They're eating basically what you're eating now, right? Maybe what are some just tips, some easy tips that you might give parents for just packing snacks for their, for preschool, the healthy lunch boxes, like getting a picky eater to eat more plant-based, whole food plant-based items? Like, what are some of the initial kind of tips and tricks you might give a parent who's in that like toddler age?
Yeah. So, first, I usually say try to have the child eat as much of your food as possible, because it's easy to fall into the trap of like cooking like child meal and an adult meal. And ideally we all want to eat the same. So try to at least have them eat as much as possible of what you're cooking.
So parents, that means you guys have to eat healthier as well too. So.
Exactly. Very good point. That's really the number key to even get your children to eat vegetables in the first place. You got to do it, because if toddlers are famous for not wanting to do what they're told to do, but wanting to do the opposite. So, they just want to do what you're doing. So if you're eating it, then they're more happy to eat it too. So it's a good thing. What you can do to at least make it a little bit easier for especially picky eaters is to serve the food separated. So I think, especially when you're talking about lunch boxes, I think those like bento style lunch boxes are really great, because then, for instance, if you have if you have a taco night or something at home, and the night before, let's say it's a Sunday night and you have tacos and you're prepping the lunchbox for the next day, just make sure that you don't mix everything and don't make a taco salad or quesadilla unless you know they like it. Because I think it's just too much easier to put the tortilla bread in one little part of the box and the beans in one, then maybe whatever veggies you have, then maybe do guacamole. So try to have it separated. That's one good tip. The other one is, of course, like kids tend to like pasta. They tend to like bread. Obviously muffins and pancakes, things like that. But you can make them really healthy. You can bake them you can even include quinoa flour, chickpea flour, buckwheat flour, like a little bit more highly iron-rich and protein-rich flours. And same with muffins. You can even have zucchini muffins or carrot muffins. You don't just need to make them on, it doesn't need to be chocolate chip. I wouldn't recommend that. So you can kind of keep it that pretty simple, but still make healthier versions of more like sort of classical toddler foods. I would also recommend like whatever you're eating at home, which they like I always suggest like parents to batch cook, because I know how much time that saves. So if you do know that they like spaghetti bolognese, but you'd make a lentil bolognese, or they might like lasagna or a specific rice and curry, whatever they like, you can have that in a lunch box too. It doesn't just need to be sandwiches. But if you do want to make sandwiches, you can fill them with, of course, instead of deli cuts and all that, because we don't want that. There's so many bean dips you can choose. You can choose hummus, obviously guacamole. We can choose nut butters, seed butters, even roasted vegetables in them. So there are quite a few options actually. And try to, if you do have a sandwich, try to always have some vegetables on the side, or some fruits, or even blueberries or strawberries or something. So they kind of get a pretty balanced meal, even if it's a packed lunch. So,
and honestly, I recommend you do that even if they're not eating it. I really do believe even if they don't if you're putting vegetables on the side every single time and they're not even touching it. And like, I get it. Like Maddox has the days where she's not touching them at all, but just making them available. Like don't just quit offering it because they don't want to eat it. I think on some level, I don't know if that makes sense. Like you're setting them up to where like it's a norm, right? Even eventually they may decide they want to eat it, or, you know, our taste buds are constantly changing. So maybe just one day, like it clicks and it does taste good. So always just having it available makes a huge difference.
Exactly. No, I couldn't agree more with you. It's so good tip. And it's backed with science too. There, like repeated exposure is what you're talking about, like repeating exposing for it. It's really the key to get children to eat a broader variety of foods. And repeated exposure doesn't mean that they have to like eat it, or like you said, it's enough that they see it, it's on their plate, it's in their lunchbox. And what you're essentially doing is that you make the sort of new, scary food not new anymore. Because once you put it in the lunchbox like 15 times, it's not new anymore.
Right.
You never know as a parent which day they're going to surprise you and actually eat it. And often, to be honest, when they're out with their friends, if they see another friend having that or eating that, or maybe the friend even see that they have it in their lunchbox and say, oh, hey, you got celery, I love celery. That might be the time when they first try it. So like you say, I think it's super, super important to keep on offering foods, because all children go through phases. And if I just think about my own child, like if I should stop serving, even if she doesn't eat pepper for 2 weeks or avocado for 3 weeks, and she's been an avocado lover since she started solids, it's so tempting to be like, oh, I don't want to waste this avocado on her anymore because she doesn't eat it anyway. And she just plays with it, or like it's so tempting to like stop serving that and thinking, she doesn't like avocados or she doesn't like beans. There's no point to serve beans. But like you said, if you start taking those foods off, eventually you don't have much left and you've missed all the exposure opportunities. And there will be days when they suddenly eat the avocado again or the pepper or whatever it is. So I'm so glad you said that, because it's so important. And it's not a waste. Parents shouldn't see it as a waste, even if the lunchbox comes back and they haven't touched it, because it is an exposure, so it's not a waste. So yeah, definitely keep the fruit and the veggies in the box, even if that's not the foods they pick first.
For sure. And I do like the food separation tip, because that's actually what I have to do. She can't stand her food mixed together. Like if it's going to be mixed, she has to do it, but more than likely it's not going to be mixed. So like I have to always like separate everything out. Like even if it's tacos, like if it's going to be a taco, she's going to make it herself, or she's just going to kind of like eat randomly in a circle. So like, whatever you have to do, but just I promise you guys that it'll get easier, and it won't always be perfect, but just to stick with it and it's all going to be good.
Yeah, no, for sure. Your daughter seems to be very, very typical toddler.
No, but I love your work, Karin. I think what you're doing is incredible, and you're changing a lot of the habits that parents are having with how they feed their kids. And I love all the information and tips that you're putting out there. So I can't wait to continue to watch as you share that, and to share your pregnancy journey as well for your new baby boy that's coming in February. It's super exciting. And is there anything that you're working on in the future that you just want to put out there and share with everybody?
Obviously, I do have my clients I see on a regular basis, and I take new clients too. My Instagram I'm working pretty actively on, but it's a little bit more like a side project. And I do have started to work with a baby food company called Tiny Organics. And almost like you said before, I don't want to sit here and do PR for them, but sometimes it's good for parents to know what brands,
for sure.
brands. And the only reason I really wanted to collaborate with them is because I stand 100% for what they're doing and their values. And it's really exciting for me, because I help them with nutritional related questions, and I also help them with making informative materials for babies and toddlers and nutrition. So I don't really work with the product itself. It's more about sort of added value for their clients.
That's awesome.
But yeah,
where are they located at?
They're located in Manhattan, but they do deliver over, and they're 100% plant-based and organic, whole foods. It's not pouches or anything. It's like you see the food when you open the little box. You see there's peas and cauliflowers and carrots, and so it's kind of unique, and that's what I really like with it, because I haven't seen that kind of baby food on the market before. And
that is awesome. No, you guys definitely go check. You said Tiny Organics, right?
Tiny Organics.
Awesome. Yeah, go check that out, because that sounds amazing. Like if Yeah, I'm going to check him out for sure. That's cool. And yeah, so Karin, what is the best way for people to follow you on social media? That way they can keep up with all of the content you put out. And also as you do speaking engagements, they can check it out and hopefully make it over there. So what is the best way for people to follow you?
Yeah, so I'm under Grazing Greens. So I'm at Grazing Greens on Instagram, and my website is grazinggreens.com. So that's where you find me. I have a website page too, but I'm not very active there. But yeah, I exist there. I'm working on that.
Perfect. Awesome. No, I'll put that in the show notes. That way people can just go click and give you an ad. And just closing question, Karin, that I ask every guest. But if you just had one piece of advice for the audience, maybe it's something that's been your biggest takeaway through your wellness journey so far. But if you just had one piece of advice to give, what would it be?
Since we've spoken mostly about children and families, I think my advice would be to sort of don't overcomplicate it with your kids. Just eat a healthy, whole food, plant-based lifestyle at home, and show your children how natural all these veggies are in your life and how much you love them, how delicious they are. And I think that naturally is going to make your kids be happy eaters of a plant-based diet too.
Awesome. I love it. That's perfect, Karin. And just thank you so much again for taking time to come on. I loved having you, and I really love the work that you're doing. So just thank you so much.
Thank you so much too. It was really fun to be on the show. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you loved my conversation with Karin. She's doing so much positive work, so be sure to give her a follow on social media to keep up with everything that she's been working on. You can find her social media links that we talked about in the episode in the show notes, but you can also find them on my website as well at drkaseyjohnson.com. That's drkaseyjohnson.com. Click on the Listen tab. Then from there, you'll be able to see all of the past guests that have come on the Unlock Wellness podcast, read a little bit about each guest, and be able to click on their social media links, websites, all of that. So all of Karin's information can be found on my site as well. If you guys loved today's episode with Karin, be sure to jump onto iTunes, subscribe, and write a review. It really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate all of the feedback and support. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in to today's episode. I hope you loved it. I hope it inspires you. And most importantly, I hope you take action.